Hello, my name is Polyniak, and my project applies the space syntax theory to local industrial accidents. To begin, it's important to understand what the space syntax theory is. Developed by Bill Hillier and Julian Hansen, this idea explains that society and spatial planning are inherently connected. For their research, they examined the ways in which cities were created with human development and movement in mind. This included examining how spaces in cities are divided into sectors, depending on their purpose, like residential and commercial areas. In recent years, scholars like John Proponis have examined how this idea can be applied to factories. For my research, I have taken the case studies of 4 local incidents from the late 19th to early 20th century to explain how applying the space syntax theory to these buildings can set up a hierarchical design between worker and upward management. The first incident took place on February 25, 1895 at the D.M. Nesbitt planing mill in Lewisburg. Company engineer J.C. Havens found himself stuck in the machinery he had been working on in the basement, which caused him to be carried along the conveyor belt. He was discovered by coworkers from the sounds of his body hitting the walls. At that point, he had lost his arm, broken his legs, and had several broken ribs. He passed away at home. The second incident occurred on March 12, 1902 at the Howen-Polk rolling mill in Danville, where David Evans, who was working as a hooker, got severely burned on a metal rod. As the rod flew off its tracks, it burned Evans' stomach and fused his clothing into his skin, where he was then sent home for a week. The third business is not necessarily about a specific case, but about the business as a whole. The Eagle Silk Mill was a large enterprise once being known as owning the largest textile mill under one roof in the United States. Shamokin Branch saw its fair share of incidents as well as worker strikes for better conditions. The fourth and final incident comes from the Pardee flour mill located in Hazleton on the day of November 18, 1883. Albertus Leroy was killed when he got on machinery which spun him around the room 416 times, a total of 2 minutes, lapsing before he was found. His injuries proved too grievous and he died at home. Results demonstrate that workers were presented with the most dangerous situations when left alone. This is found to be most evident in the cases at D.M. Nesbitt and Pardee Flour Mill, where both men had their coworkers alerted minutes after their incidents as they had no way to call for help. This also meant these men were left unsupervised, perhaps because other areas were being monitored. As is seen across many factories, upper management and floor work are often kept separated, which goes to show the hierarchical means of dividing labor workers from office work. The conclusion found from this research is that the hierarchical structure of factories has been thoroughly ingrained into the layout, much like Hillier and Hansen's initial examination of cities. Shop floor employees were deliberately kept separate from their higher-ups, which made filing complaints and receiving immediate responses to medical emergencies increasingly difficult. Due to this, the amount of worker strikes that were identified in the area during the early 20th century appears to result from this issue as the biggest effect of implementing new safety regulations for employees.